My mom loves my ex like a daughter. We grew up in a small town, and my family and hers have known each other since before we were born. When we went away to university after graduating, she chose to attend the same school. I knew that we would be together forever. Well, she did not. She broke up with me and had a lot of fun. I was broken for a bit, but I was on a scholarship and I had to either cowboy up or move home and curl into a ball for a while. I graduated, as did she, and I moved back to Denver for a job. She moved back home to be a teacher. I guess she never bothered telling my mom why we broke up and what she did at college. I wasn't about to. I met a woman at my gym. She is everything that I thought my ex was, and more. She also does not put up with any crap. Not from me, her boss, not anyone. If I go on about her, I'm going to use up my character limit. She is a couple of years, literally 2, older than I am. This, for some reason, makes her damaged goods in my mom's opinion. She is 28, not exactly 1 foot in the grave. She is also in no hurry to have kids. My mother craves grandchildren. Now that my ex has settled down some, she wants to start a real life. I in no way, shape, or form judge her for what she did in university. I wasn't a choir boy either. But I had no desire to move backwards in my life when she suggested getting back together. Okay, the wedding. My dad passed away a few years ago, and my mom hasn't found anyone new. She did mention that she would like a +1 for the wedding, and I was excited thinking that maybe she had finally met someone. Like I said, small town and family friends. I wasn't super surprised to see my ex at the ceremony. She sat with her family and was polite at the receiving line. I was flipping shocked to see her at the reception, sitting with my mom at the table, as her guest. After the first little bit, I asked my mom what was going on. She said that she had always wanted to see me and my ex together. I told her to please ask my ex to leave. It was not appropriate for her to be there. My mom said that if I made my ex leave, then she was going to go too. Easy call. I was not going to have my wife upset at our wedding, so I asked my ex to leave, and my mom chose to go with her. Even her family stayed and enjoyed the reception. Her dad was my football coach and her mom was one of my scout leaders. Now my mom is crying to everyone that I kicked her out of her only son's wedding, and some people are calling me an a-hole. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Getting this question a lot. It is a very small town. Everyone in town that goes to church goes to that church. When I lived in town, I went to almost every single wedding held at that church. My mom still does. Everyone knows each other. My reception, however, was a private event. Not the a-hole. Who are these some people calling you an a-hole when your mother brought your ex to your wedding? And then cries and acts the victim. I'd say your mother is the a-hole times 1,000. I'd be going no contact or low contact with your mom though. What's next? Your ex is going to be in the delivery room when your wife has your children? Not the a-hole. Your mom did something incredibly disrespectful and grossly inappropriate. Bringing your ex to your wedding with the expectation you'd get back together with her is absolutely not acceptable by any standard. It sounds like it's time to set some firm boundaries with your mother and perhaps consider cutting all contact with your ex. You should also explain to everyone precisely what your mom did, instead of letting her mislead everyone with her potentially omitted narrative. Not the a-hole. Did your mom really think you were going to ditch your fiancé at the altar for your ex? Wow. Tell her that she won't get to see them grandbabies she's craving if she doesn't shape up. Sure, they might be years down the road, but if she keeps trying to push you and the ex together, I'd go low contact and see how she likes finding out on social media or through town gossip that you have children. 6 weeks ago, I, female 34, married my husband, male 35. My sister-in-law brought her son, John, 8. John has always been hyper and loud, but we've never had an issue, anything like we did that day. During the wedding, John was particularly restless. He was running up and down the aisles and screaming. Sister-in-law did nothing, and eventually one of my bridesmaids went over to her and asked her to take John outside so we could actually enjoy our wedding. This didn't go down well, but sister-in-law just looked huffy and took him outside. My bridesmaid is a queen. After the wedding, while taking photos in the church ground, John was running around the grounds uncontrolled. He kept jumping into the frame, ruining photos, and my husband said to his sister multiple times to control him. She vaguely told him, "Be good, sweetie," then ignored him. Eventually, he came running up to me, and from behind, while I was taking a photo, he slapped me on my behind with both hands. I heard my mom gasp and realized John had mud all over him, and he had left black muddy handprints all over my dress and veil. I was devastated. We were supposed to go for a post-wedding photo shoot afterwards while walking around London, but I was too embarrassed. We ended up going straight to the reception venue and tried to clean me off, but it was hopeless. After our meal, I ended up changing into a dress I brought for the next day. I couldn't cry. I just felt sick. I know it sounds stupid saying the day was ruined, because ultimately I was so happy to marry my husband, And I know it was just a dress, but we worked so hard to pay for the wedding we wanted, and I just felt so defeated. My sister-in-law looked shocked when it initially happened, but didn't apologize. She just took James aside and later came up to me and tried to make a joke of it, saying, "Boys will be boys." At that point, I told her to leave. Genuinely, if she had come up to me and apologized, genuinely, I would have let it go. But the fact that she didn't even pretend to be sorry, I saw red and told her to get the duck out of my wedding. She sobbed and left. My mom took my dress to a cleaner's for me the next day, but it can't be saved. So I sent my sister-in-law the bill for the attempted cleaning and the total cost of the dress and veil, £2,338 in total. My husband is in complete agreement with me, but I'm having second thoughts now because she is a single mom, and that's a lot of money for her. But I've still had no acknowledgement or apology. So am I the a-hole for following through and making her pay for the dress her son ruined? Not the a-hole. These are the consequences of her choosing not to parent her son at your wedding. Kids do stupid things, and sometimes make expensive mistakes, especially so when their parents refuse to parent them. It's not up to other people to cover the bill for her choices. Not the a-hole. It's the parents' job to control their kids, especially in a public setting. She was asked by your bridesmaid, told by your husband, and she did nothing. You had every right to tell her to leave. Did you get any shots around London? If not, I would charge her for the missed photos too. Wedding photographers are expensive. It's disrespectful and poor parenting to allow your child to ruin someone's wedding. There's no excuse for that. Not the a-hole. And if she can't control her son, she should have left him with a babysitter. Ruining anyone's wedding, which is one of the most special days, is no excuse for lousy behavior. And boys will be boys is like saying will be ah. She should have ideally taken him out when he got restless during the ceremony and kept him on a tight leash, failing which should have either left or got some friends or family to keep him under control. Tonight, I, 39 female, borrowed my husband's, 40 male, SUV to grab some takeout. We don't typically eat out because I have severe food allergies, shellfish, tree nuts, and peanuts. But we do have a short list that I'm comfortable. As I was driving down our street, I looked over and saw an open snack package on the passenger floor. Husband and I both keep our cars neat, so it jumped out at me. I knew that 2 weeks ago we returned from celebrating our 10-year anniversary. I assumed we just missed some trash. I got to a stoplight. I reached over and grabbed it. I saw that it was a bag of almond granola. I'm highly allergic, i.e., I have to carry 2 EpiPens to nuts. Our home and shared spaces are nut-free. When my husband and I dated, I shared about my allergies, and he more than willingly gave up nuts to ensure my safety. Seeing this in our vehicle was surprising and anxiety-inducing. I had no idea if there was nut residue on the steering wheel or in my seat, and I was truly worried that I was going to have a reaction. Upon arriving at home, I entered it stoically and immediately washed my hands and remained quiet. From both the anxiety of the what if and being hurt that my husband had something that was lethal to me in his car. He saw that something was wrong and probed me for a bit. I finally asked him if he had something in his car that might not be good for me. He had no idea what I was referring to, so I told him. Immediately, he put up a wall, said that his mother, who he visited a week ago and knows about my allergies, gave him the snacks as he was leaving. He had no idea there were nuts in them. My husband is an engineer, educated. I struggled to understand how he wouldn't realize something called almond granola had nuts. He doubled down and told me that it wasn't his fault and he had nothing to feel bad about. He didn't purchase it. He didn't ask for it. It was just in his car. After all, he didn't bring it into the house. For 10 years, he hasn't brought nuts into our home, nor ate them. I told him that I held him to a higher standard and said that I had to be hypervigilant to ensure I didn't touch or eat something that would make me very sick or worse, and had always assumed he did the same thing. He shot back that again, this wasn't his fault. His mom gave it to him. He didn't know it was nuts, and it wasn't in the house, so I shouldn't be upset. I told him, after this went on, that I felt like I couldn't trust him, and we were back to square one when it came to my allergies, because I wondered what else he didn't pick up on and what he wouldn't notice in the future. He told me that I was overreacting, that he wasn't at fault, as this was no harm and no foul, and I didn't even have a reaction. It felt so out of character for him, so it truly makes me wonder if I'm being the a-hole here by telling him I can't trust him anymore. You're the a-hole. Nothing you've said indicates that he has a pattern of disregarding this issue, so you're basically saying that he's lying when he says he didn't know. If he is, in fact, lying, then it would change my opinion. But on the face of it, you would be the one actively damaging your relationship by holding his feet to the fire over this. You're the a-hole. If this is what it takes to break your trust after 10 years, you don't have enough trust in your relationship. You're the a-hole. He screws up one time in over 10 years of being together, and you are pretty much acting like he tried to you. Give him the benefit of the doubt. Otherwise, it is just you being unreasonable and impossible to please. If 10 years of being vigilant means nothing to you, you need to reevaluate. I'm a married Indian Muslim woman. My dear husband and I are both immigrants. He is Pakistani Muslim. We've been in this country for over 20 years. I'm unable to have children, but we adopted our dear daughter when she was almost 2. She was my dear husband's goddaughter. Her bio parents passed away unexpectedly. When we initially adopted our dear daughter, we faced backlash from my dear husband's family. My mother-in-law hated the idea of us taking in a stranger's child, even though we were very close with her parents. We were told multiple times that she wouldn't be welcomed or accepted by that side of the family because of her background and who her parents were. They were Cuban, white Catholics. This wasn't the first time my mother-in-law had given us grief. She didn't approve of our marriage because I came from a poorer family and was therefore below her son. We obliged my mother-in-law and permanently distanced ourselves from anyone who criticized our decision. Our dear daughter's skin color and origin has no bearing on our love for her. After cutting off my mother-in-law and most of my dear husband's family, we struggled without their support. We had almost no contact with them except for my mother-in-law's passive-aggressive voicemails and letters, all of which completely pretended we didn't have a child. One of them informed us of her cancer and also my dear husband to come see her. He called back and said no, he would only be coming when his family was invited. Our dear daughter has grown to be an intelligent, well-rounded, and compassionate young woman. We could not be more proud. She struggles with OCD and anxiety, but has overcome many obstacles which previously seemed insurmountable. She lives with us but attends nursing school and is working to save up for a car. The rejection from my dear husband's family still hurts her to think about. We've just been told that my mother-in-law doesn't have much time left. She's extended an invitation to make up and mend bridges. She even invited our daughter. My dear husband and I declined, and are being told we're terrible people for letting an old woman die without the chance to see her son and grandchild. I responded that she never recognized our dear daughter as her grandchild, and that this was her own doing. Our daughter has expressed that she has no interest in meeting or seeing my mother-in-law. My husband shares that same sentiment, and believes this is just a way for his mother to see him one last time. My mother-in-law somehow found our daughter's Facebook and left a post on her wall, calling her a whole slew of names and saying that she was the reason the family split up. I responded by saying that no one cared if she passed from her cancer, and that the day she did would be a blessing for all that knew her. I do feel some bit of regret, but I draw the line at hurting my daughter. My husband has spoken to his mother privately and also expressed his disgust by her actions and said she'd only ever been a mother to him when it benefits her. Am I the a-hole for denying her requests and defying my family? Not the a-hole. Your mother-in-law needs to turn that mirror to herself if she wants to know the reason why her family split up. If this rift had only happened a year or two ago, I might have a different opinion, but your mother-in-law has had 16 plus years to mend fences and apologize for her actions, and it was only when faced with her own mortality that the idea even occurred to her at all, which, given her tirade on your daughter's Facebook, is clearly not even a sincere attempt. In any case, I think taking your husband and daughter's lead is important here, and as neither of them have any wish to see her, that's what really matters. Not the a-hole. It's hard to wipe off years of mistreatment in a day, just because the other person is terminal. People want absolution before they pass away so that heaven's gates will open for them without any barriers. Even in those moments, they are thinking of their soul and not about the people they have hurt in their lifetime. Well, it doesn't work that way. Not the a-hole. She had me for a minute. I was ready to tell you to go see her, and then I got the last paragraph. If she truly wanted to make peace now, why leave hateful things on your daughter's page? That angered me more than anything else you said, and the whole post made me mad. No excuse for any of her behavior, really, but contacting your daughter was way over the line. You'll probably feel some guilt for your response, but in reality, nothing you said was untrue. Background. My ex-wife and I have a daughter, 14 female, and we share custody. My daughter has 3 other siblings and a stepsister, her age, from her mom and stepdad, while she has one younger brother with me and my wife. I'm a lawyer, and while my wife might seem like a usual stay-at-home mom, but she owns a few properties she rents out. Needless to say, we can provide my daughter with things her mother can't, and that has always been a slight issue until recently. My father-in-law recently passed away and left my wife, only child, with everything. She brought up the idea of sending both kids to private school since we can now afford to do it, without breaking the bank. My wife loves my daughter like her own, so she was always fair. Whatever she gets our son, she gets something similar in value for our daughter. I brought this up to my ex, and she shut me down almost immediately. Apparently, her kids already hate our daughter for being more privileged, and that this will most definitely cause even more resentment. I told her I understood, but that she shouldn't hold our daughter back from getting a better education because of this. We argued for a bit, and apparently our daughter heard her mom and I argue about private school because now she's mad at her mom for not letting her go. She wants to go, and now she wants to live with me full time. My ex is now blaming me for using my money to turn our daughter against her. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You didn't intend for your kid to hear, and as a parent, the mother should want to take advantage of any opportunity to give her kid the best life she can, which in this case would be an education that many would dream of. It's unfortunate for her other kids, but that's up to their parents. You should do what's best for your kid. Not the a-hole. This kind of situation is complicated, but you want the best for your daughter, and your ex-wife isn't being fair in this situation. That said, I can understand your ex's perspective. In the end, I think your daughter is old enough to make her own choice. Just be sure never to badmouth her mom, and consider still encouraging their relationship. Not the a-hole. I'd offer to have your daughter live with you for the school week, since the ex seems to have her hands full. Explain that it has nothing to do with money, and everything with wanting to give her the best you possibly can. The only one turning your daughter against their mother is her mother. If you have ample space for her, there's no reason she shouldn't be able to live with you during the school week and go to her mother's on the weekend or whatever. I don't imagine you'd charge any sort of child support if that were the case, which, if you pay for her with the ex, could also be the reason her mother doesn't want her to leave.